All right, good afternoon. Welcome to C&T Collectibles. I hope everybody is doing well today, especially our friends down south who've run into some pretty nasty weather lately. So we wish you a full recovery, and it sounds like thankfully the worst is perhaps behind you, at least weather-wise. So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to break down each position for baseball. We've got spring training getting started here, and the season will start in about a month and a half. And so we'd like to just go position by position and pick out the top handful of players at each. And the one thing I can promise you is that whatever we do submit as our top players at each position will probably not be the top guys at the position at the end of the year. A lot can happen, so we'll do our best here and trying to have some fun. Our projections are from Fangraphs, and so we'll just stick with that, and I'll have a few observations about each player, and let's just have some fun with it. So let's jump into number 5, and that is Chicago White Sox pitcher Lucas Giolito. He's 26 years old, and what stands out to me about him is that nothing stands out. Everything that he does is pretty solid and very repeatable. So there's a number of players that we could put in this list, and they're all really, really close. But there's something that just really sticks out that looks like, screams regression, and so we got to be careful about that. So over the past couple of years, he's been in top 10 Cy Young consideration, and what he's been able to do is maintain the strikeout rate, which is very, very key. We don't care about wins and losses, game start, innings pitch, all that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that he's healthy and durable. But when we get into the weeds a little bit here, we want to make sure that these are repeatable numbers here. So a strikeout rate over the past couple of years has been in that 11 to 12 area here, and the projections look like they want more of the same, which would be at a very high level for him. The walk rate is kind of average to on the low side a little bit. Home runs per 9, not giving up a ton of home runs per 9 last year, so there could be a little bit of regression in that area. And the batting average and balls in play, this is kind of the luck factor. Every ball that's hit, if it's landing in play for a hitter, then they're getting a little bit lucky. For a pitcher, that's a little bit unlucky. And so a low batting average and balls in play for a pitcher screams that, well, maybe a few more balls should be dropping in. You can see that there's some regression to the upside, perhaps in Lucas Giolito's future, but not a ton. And you can see that, you'll see that in the ERA. Left on base, he was actually a little bit unlucky. A lot of ground balls. Home run fly ball rate has been remarkably consistent. The ERA last year was in that 3.5 range, and it looks like he actually pitched better than that 3.48. His fielding independent pitching, when you remove the fielders and just focus on the things that a pitcher can control, he was a little bit better than his ERA was expecting here. And so when we look at this year, again, that batting average ball play, if that comes up a little bit, then you can see his ERA come up. But right now, this is a very top of the line pitcher. He is going in fantasy drafts right now. He's the 6th overall pitcher taken off the board at around the 18th pick. So what you're looking for in those first couple rounds is you're looking for safety, and it looks like Lucas Giolito can provide that. All right, number 4. And that is Max Scherzer. I played it safe here, and you'll see why. Again, a lot of the players that could take his place, and I'll hear the arguments and have no problem with it. But what you're looking for is repeatable numbers here, and you need safety in those first handful of picks. So the projection systems have him ranked pretty high, is obviously 4th overall. But what you're seeing in drafts is that he's going quite a bit later. He's the 28th overall pick, and that puts him behind about 6 or 7 pitchers. So what I am seeing in Max Scherzer, he's 36 years old. At some point, age is going to catch up. Is it this year? I don't know. Over the last 3 years, he's been incredibly consistent with that K to 9. So they're looking for perhaps a little bit of regression, but still at an elite level based on balls per 9. Low walk rate, home runs every. He gives up a couple dingers here and there, but he was unlucky last year. 35% of balls in play found grass, and so that's a high number. And you could see some regression in that area here, which could help his ERA overall. Left on base, it was at a high level here, but not ridiculously so for a pitcher of his talent. So 80% of the guys that got on base stayed there. Ground ball rate is fairly low. Home run to fly ball rate elevated just a little bit. And again, we talked about some of the home runs here. So what we are looking for the ERA is to come down just a little bit as that BABIP regresses just a bit. And the fielding independent pitcher, he pitched a little bit better than his ERA was, but nothing wild. So he's stuck in that 3.5 ERA range, which is just fine. So 3.5 ERA with a lot of strikeouts and a decent offense behind him. Max Scherzer is my number 4 pitcher. All right, before we get into the top three, just want to jump in real quick and go over some of the what we call the runner-ups, the honorable mentions, guys that could easily be in this list, but for one reason or not quite there yet. And we'll start off with Yu Darvish, and what I like about him is he's a terrific pitcher, minuscule walk rate. His ERA was fantastic last year, but it's an outlier. He pitched to a 2 ERA, fielding independent pitching, a little bit worse than that. So he got a tiny bit lucky, but he's an excellent pitcher. Strikeout rate's a little bit lower compared to some of the other guys on this list here. And so when you look at the ERA and the fielding independent pitching, you can see that he might be in line for some regression. His K to base on balls rate was also a little bit lower than some of the other guys on the list here. So with the Padres, maybe he absolutely repeats this and I look like an idiot. That's certainly possible and wouldn't be the first time. That's for darn sure here. But he didn't give up any home runs. It was an incredibly low walk rate based on balls per 9. Batting average, balls in play was fine. Left on base, touch high overall. So there's nothing that screams like he has to regress for the most part, but it seems like to me everything went right for Yu Darvish last year, and he did have a terrific season, no question about it. Repeating it, that's another thing. Trevor Bauer, your Cy Young Award winner in the National League. And again, an amazing season here. Really the past couple of years, he's been an incredible pitcher here. 2 out of the last 3, he's been about the best pitcher in the league. You can make that argument here. So is he a 10 to 12 strikeout per 9 pitcher, or is he more in this range here? Based on balls per 9, 2 and 3 is the average. He walked just over 2 guys per 9 last year. Home run rate was low. Batting average and balls in play was ridiculously low. If you look at a 215, that area does scream some regression. And left on base at 90%. 9 out of every 10 guys that got on base stayed on base, which is an insane level. A lot of ground balls. Home run to fly ball rate, again, pretty low because they didn't give up a ton of them. So there's a lot of things here that scream regression. If you look at his ERA, just a minuscule 1.76, and he absolutely deserved the Cy Young. It was an incredible season, but his fielding independent pitching was closer to that 3 level that he's been at, the past few years here. So, to see regression in that ERA, the left on base, a lot of things went right. Almost everything went right for him last year. It would be asking a lot for that to repeat, and for that reason, Trevor Bauer slides out of my top 5. So, to be fair, I didn't have him in my top 5 last year, and that would have been a great call. So I missed on it. I thought he was good, but missed on it there, and maybe we'll be right this time here. Aaron Nola, another guy that's getting a lot of love, and deservedly so. And all these guys are terrific. There's no question about it. Strikeout rate was a little bit elevated last year. Based on balls was down, and maybe that's him. Well, from the previous year, but it's really within his career average here. He doesn't give up a whole lot of home runs, and that continued. Batting average and balls in play was pretty fair. Left on base, pretty fair. Ground ball, home run to fly ball. And when you're looking at the fielding independent pitcher, he pitched even a little bit better than his 3.28. So this was the guy that I was strongly considering putting in that top 5. Just not there quite yet, but I would be extremely happy with Aaron Nola on my fantasy team. He is the 22nd. He's going in about the 22nd pick overall in fantasy draft. So people think highly of him, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. He's a terrific pitcher. Nothing in here screams a ton of regression by any stretch here. But it does have a little bit lower strikeout rate and a little bit higher walk rate than some of the other players on this list. So if he's able to maintain this again, then that is a legit top 5 pitcher overall. And we'll wrap up this intermission with Walker Buehler, who I believe will be an incredible pitcher for a long time to come here. But a few things in here. Again, he didn't throw a whole lot last year. It was a shortened season, but he threw a little bit less than that. So again, we don't care about wins and losses a whole lot here. Strikeout per 9, again, a little bit lower than some of the top guys on this list here. Based on balls per 9, just fine. A little bit higher in the home run area here. You look at the batting average and balls in play, extremely lucky. A lot of balls in play found gloves and were outs. Left on base, a little bit low, so he could regress, and that would be favorable for him to leave a few more guys on base here. Low ground ball rate, home run to fly ball rate. Again, kind of fair because he didn't give up a huge amount or anything like that. ERA 3.44, but his fielding independent pitching, again, the things that he can control, he pitched at closer to a 4.43 average. So you can see that ERA rise a little bit as that BABIP comes up, and you see just normal regression. And again, for that reason, he's out of my top 5. Again, still top 10, an incredible pitcher. He is looks like 21% K to base, K minus base on ball. So that metric is a little bit low, strikeouts to walk ratio. So again, all these guys are terrific. You'd be happy to have them on your team, but for now, not in the top 5. All right, and we'll wrap it up with our top three here. And no surprise, our top three is going to consist of Shane Bieber, AL Cy Young Award winner. Shane Bieber, an incredible season last year. Just amazing stuff here. 8-1 out of 12 games started. 14.2 K per 9, which led the league as far as I can tell. It's an amazing number here. Walk rate is on the low end of things. Not a lot of home runs at all. BABIP in the fair range here. A little bit low for him overall. Left on base. 91% of guys get on base. Stayed there. Ground balls. A lot of grounders. You see this in the 20-30% range. He was about 50%. Anything that did get touched that wasn't a strikeout was knocked on the ground and probably fielded by the left side of that amazing infield. And he's going to be missing Lindor this year, so we could see how that works out. Home run to fly ball rate has been in this historical area here, and his ERA was just a scant 1.63. Pitched at about a 2.07 level, so we are going to look for some regression from Shane Bieber. Is he a 14 strikeouts per 9 guy? Likely not. And so projections have him a little bit lower there. Maybe he could sneak into that 12 area, which would be more normal. But last year, just lights out. Everything went right for him. So we could see some regression there. Walk rate probably comes down just a little bit here. Actually walked a few more guys than he had in the past. Home runs a fly ball, again, looking for some regression here. Fewer balls on the ground, maybe a few more in the air. See how that kind of plays. But anyways, the batting average and balls in play, a little bit low for him. So again, we could see some regression to the north, and that's going to affect the ERA overall. Left on base, this is the big one here. Very difficult to strand that level of players on base, and so looking for some decent regression into that 70% range here, which he's done in the past. A little unlucky here, really lucky on this one here. So that ERA, if it did rise to the mid threes, now this still puts him in that top three, because a lot of these other players that we've already talked about are sitting in that 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 area here. So still has an incredibly low ERA. Wins above replacement, just looks terrific. Shane Bieber, a solid top three pick in fantasy drafts right now. He is going at the I had it written down here. Here it is. He is going at the 9th pick overall. So he's a top 10 pick overall in fantasy drafts. So players and fantasy players really believe in his talent, as well as you should as well. So there is a regression in line for Shane Bieber. But again, end of the world? Probably not. All right, number 2 is Gerrit Cole for the New York Yankees. Gerrit Cole is a 30-year-old, and last year, another amazing season. Tons of strikeouts for this guy here. So he was actually a little bit off last year, so expect some improvement from him. So K per 9, he's really been in that 12 or 13 area here, dropped off to the 11.5, so we'll look for that to rise just a little bit. Strike out a few more guys. Walk rate is pretty low. Home run per 9 innings, on the high side of things here. BABIP a little bit low, so look for some regression on this one. So his ERA could rise just a little bit as more balls find the grass here. Left on base, again, it was a high 85%. He's done this in the past, and so he's really good at leaving players on base that might be just a touch high. So look at some minor decrease in that level, and that again will contribute to a slightly higher ERA. Ground ball rate low, home run to fly ball rate again, it's average-ish. ERA in the 2.8, and he pitched at a 3.89 level, even though his ERA was at 2.84. So again, look for some regression in that, and I think this 3.3, 3.4 area is probably fine, but this is still good enough to be the number 2 pitcher overall, and that leaves our number 1 pitcher and another New Yorker. I think not a surprise on this one as well, and we'll finish it up with Jacob deGrom, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, really the best pitcher in the league over the past 5 or 6 years. He's just been incredible. 32 years old. And he, again, last year he was as good as he's been, if not even better, than a Cy Young Award year. So he struck out 13.76 per 9. He's really around that 11 area here, so we'll see if we can't get a little regression out of that one. Maybe the bats find the balls just a little bit more often this year. Base and balls running, but he walked a few more guys as well, but he's still carrying a 32% strikeout to walk rate, which is one of the highest, right next to Shane Bieber, who's at that 34 level. They're pretty high, and they're very skilled at missing bats. Batting average and balls in play is just fine. Home runs per 9, he's always had a low number there. He doesn't give up a whole lot of bombs. Left on base around 80%, and that's right in his career average, or his last few years average. Ground balls, home run to fly ball. Again, gave up a few more home runs last year than he has in the past, but it's not a huge amount by any stretch here. 2.38 ERA, 2.26 filling independent pitching. So he pitched a bit better than he has than he did on the field, than his ERA would indicate. And so again, we can look for that to rise just a little bit. I don't know if that's if it needs to get up that high, because he's been in that 2.5 range here. So these projections might be a little bit more negative than than what he's actually going to do. But put all that together, and this is a guy that doesn't show a lot of regression, has pitched at a high level, and would continue to expect that he does just that. All right, and there's my top 5. So I hope you found it useful, but even more so, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I know there was no baseball cards involved in this one, but I can imagine that a few of these players will sneak their way into the weekend this week in baseball cards. So pay attention for that, and again, thank you for stopping by, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.